Welcome back, everyone. This is Moel Sumidai, and I'm Chief Editor of the Clinical Trial Vanguard. And I'm here today to interview Stephanie Bova, who is the Digital Transformation Officer of Drug Development at Novo Nordisk, and Rick Van Mol, who is the Senior Vice President of R&D and Quality at Veeva Systems. We're here at the Veeva R&D and Quality Conference. Welcome both. So I've got a few questions for you here around some of the announcements you made earlier today. So you announced that Novo Nordisk and Veeva have entered into a long-term strategic partnership. And can you tell us about what this entails? And maybe you can start, Stephanie.
Thank you. Maybe I'll start with a little bit of history of how did we get to a strategic partnership to set the context. So already when I joined Novo 18 months ago, Veeva was a key infrastructure vendor for how we actually run drug development and quality. And one of the early meetings I had with Rick was recognizing that our futures are really intertwined together in terms of having a one system approach, looking at maximized data flows, et cetera. So we started having a conversation of what could a strategic partnership look like? What would that entail? What would be in it for each of us? So from our point of view at Novo Nordisk, having a single partner that spans across the development lifecycle, that is a reliable SaaS partner that helps us standardize process and actually drive the business outcomes that we want to focus on, which is cycle time reduction, probability of success increase, and efficiency and productivity. They see how everyone else operates, and so it helps us actually know how to kind of benchmark our performance, right, and be better in a very reliable way. So that was one of the key driving factors to start the conversation.
I think when people talk about a partnership and strategic partnership, probably a word that is being abused most in the industry here, we were not talking about a big financial transaction. That's not what we were there. Like we were working together already for a number of years, but I think what we found is also company's culture matched, people matched, people go along. Stephanie and myself, our management as well, came along, and there was a feeling like, okay, together, if we work together, we can be stronger together. I think that was actually the foundation for this partnership.
And how does such a collaboration help Novo Nordisk advance its strategy?
So, like I was saying, we're very focused on the business outcomes of, we get trials through the trial process, right? And Veeva is a core part of us doing that, right? But to be quite honest, the strategic nature, right, is helping us do even better, right? So, and the part of the relationship kicked off with a 12-week sprint, looking at how could we find 10% efficiency on the things that we're already doing, right? So how can you squeeze more value out of what we already have, and how can we co-create that? And I think we landed in a number of really interesting places around how we're using the Veeva systems, also maybe new areas that we can invest in, or even areas that we can be early adopters on with Veeva.
And in which particular areas did you focus on where you found that 10% effort reduction?
Yeah, so there were about six key ideas out of quite a longer list, right? But the ones that had the highest value was looking at site collaboration. So what are the tools that we deploy to our clinical trial sites to make it easier and less frictionless for investigators or patients to interact with us? So that's a key differentiator for any company, right? The complexity of all the systems that you need to provide to those sites, right? The other one was looking at eTMF AI tools, right? So that was another very exciting area. But overall, I think when I take a step back, it's a question of how are we also deploying the data infrastructure on how we actually connect all the vaults and how we operationalize, because it's very easy to put them by chunks, right? And think of them as almost standalone versus I think what we came to realize is there's a lot of value of thinking about the connectivity and the analytics that can come from that too.
Long-term strategic direction in terms of integration.
Exactly.
And beyond making sense from a business perspective, what potential does this partnership have to enable you to better serve patients?
I think one of the key pieces for us is really the site collaboration, right? That's kind of the next new. There's a few things that directly, I think, impact patients. Anytime where we can reduce cycle time, right? If we're slow in clinical development, that's a direct impact to patients. That means they are not getting novel treatments that we believe in our science. They're not getting them fast enough, right? So we take an enormous focus on things that can actually reduce the complexity around cycle time, right? So the interactions, setting sites up, the training, all of these add into a number of man hours, number of days that we're looking to optimize.
So generally, when you implement novel systems and save time and effort with employees, with physicians and sites, I'm curious to know, within Novo Nordisk, have you noticed any difference? You know, for example, when we're implementing new technology systems, we see that people are still spending the same amount of hours, but they're doing something completely different with these hours, something a lot more productive. What have you observed within Novo Nordisk after implementing these systems of efficiency?
Yeah, so I would say, you know, having worked in quite a few companies in different environments, it's really hard to measure, right? Because most of us don't have the analytical backbone set up to be able to measure how much productivity or efficiency have we banked and how are we spending that as capital, right? So if you improve efficiency, what are we going to have people do? How have we thought ahead and thought about how are they going to spend that time, right, on the most important things? So I think, you know, in collaboration with Veeva, we have an analytics layer where we're able to take all of our core transactional systems, including the ones that are with Veeva, and be able to actually look at what is our process, how is it designed, how do we think it performs, and then what happens in reality, and look at ways to do process improvement. And I know you have some exciting new features coming out with process navigation and optimization, but these are the types of things that we need to. You need to have that analytics layer first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And your KPIs, of course, that's what it's all about, and also to measure against that, right? I'm curious to know, what specific KPIs have you built in order to measure that success?
Let me give you an example of one that's rarely talked about. We look at right first time, right? So if you open anything in issue management, how many times are we reopening things after we've closed them? How many times do we actually, you know, get the process right the first time before it goes into a loop? Because all of those directly impact the amount of time it's taken to get things done. And so right first time is a metric that we're starting to deploy across the value chain in drug development.
What would you say are the main challenges facing the industry where platforms such as Veeva Development Cloud are making a difference?
Main challenges, that's a really great question. There's so many. I would say that the pace of change for people to absorb all of the technologies that are coming out between AI agents and, you know, foundational technologies, and actually that just triggers new ways of working. And so it's the people component. How quickly can we get people to catch up with the technology? So the technology first approach doesn't really stick so well. You have to get people passionate about what they're trying to solve and why they have to change versus just push a technology. So I think that's where, you know, I've personally found that you help us, you know, focus on the business goals that we want and then actually deliver the technologies, right? So that we're not too focused on technology only.
It's also about getting the foundation right, huh? And I think that's what we can do with our solutions, that foundation right, have the right quality of data, have the right things in place, so then actually we can start building onto that. Yeah, and I think that's what the challenge is today in the industry, is that foundation is always in place. And there's different technologies, different places, different sources of truth, right? Bringing that together, have trusted data that you can work on. Right? We will talk about AI and analytics and all these kind of things. Without trusted data, it's impossible to do. So I think that's probably the first challenge to nail down, is really get to that foundation.
So it's clear to me, what I'm hearing over and over again is that Veeva is built to scale, right? But you have to design the technology around the user. How do you customize the technology to motivate the users to use it while still implementing scale for big pharma?
So I think actually we need to start thinking about things a bit differently, right? So the things that we're doing back to foundational systems, is that really so different from one to the other? Yeah, is that really different from one company to the other? Maybe people think so, but that is going to go away. If you really want to be more efficient, and there's also various stakeholders, right? There is the the sponsor company by itself, but you have the sites, you have the CROs that you work with and whatever. Yeah, if it's all customized ways of working, it's very hard to collaborate, to work all together. Yeah, so to be able to actually get to that standardized ways of working, that's a big objective what we have, like a simplify, standardize. And I think for the overall of the industry, that will be a big benefit.
And what do you expect from this partnership over the next 5 years? Starting with you, Stephanie.
Yes, I expect that our continued deployment of Veeva EDC, that has already kicked off with 25 trials in 2025, will continue across all the rest of our clinical programs, right, as they move into EDC. The second thing is we will see next year the go live for Veeva Safety, so a single global safety system. That's first for us, right, and actually for many in the industry, right? The safety landscape has been somewhat fragmented, and so the concept of having it in one-stop shop, right? Again, you know, all the way from intake to case processing, that's a huge simplification for us on how we do business, right? And then I think in the future, I'm most excited on the 3 to 5 year roadmap of thinking about the process automation opportunities, process navigation, the deployment of AI agents into the Veeva backbone. I think there's huge opportunity there, but the challenge is going to be understanding which one of those create value and which of those are just tech-first approaches. And so I think we still have some work to do as an industry and in the partnership of thinking, where do we want to strategically play when we're deploying those technologies the next few years?
I think it's quite easy, right? The first thing is to make sure, as Stephanie mentioned, the ongoing programs and the software which is there need to provide value. They need to be successful and value. Otherwise, we won't talk anymore in 3 to 5 years from now, right? So that's the basic point. I think what also we hope to get from the partnership is by that 3 to 5 year horizon is that together we can innovate. Yeah, I don't know what the solution is going to be or what it's going to be in what area, but I think we have the potential with this partnership to look at something new that can help the industry, can help Novo, can help Veeva, but do something dramatically innovative. So that's what I hope that we can talk about in 5 years from now.
Maybe next year. Come back to us next year.
That would be exciting. I want to ask you what sorts of challenges, or rather, what advice would you give to other biopharmaceutical and big pharma companies to implement change? Because it's extremely challenging to do that in a big pharma environment. What advice would you give to your colleagues out there to implement this type of change?
I think you have to understand our business model deeply on how to create value, right? After that, making sure that you find the right evangelists of the people within the business who don't have to be sold on doing on the new agenda that you're setting out. And then I actually think that, you know, there's some different approaches depending on different companies' culture. For us, we're very much like a family. Novo colleagues work very well together, and so, you know, the collaboration of getting a lot of people involved is a pro and a con for us at the same time. So how we make this work, right, has to fit our nature, right? And I think, you know, we bring great ideas, we torture test them, and then we have to at one point agree that we move forward or not. Other company cultures, I think, you know, we'll have to figure out how to fine-tune the how. But I think at the end of the day, if you get people excited about, you know, how this is really creating value versus just, you know, an extra thing to add on to their plate, like how is this helping us serve patients? If there's a clear line of sight to that, usually it's not such a difficult conversation until you get to the who pays for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else either of you would like to add?
That's a very open question. You probably have seen it this morning, Mo, from the main stage. You've probably seen it in a lot of presentations today. We're quite excited about this partnership. Yeah, so it's great that we had the opportunity to talk about it, to also share it with the industry. And I think we can do really great things together. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about it today.
Thank you both.
Thank you.